Okay. Hello. Today I'm going to be trying something a little bit different. I'm going to be building a bit of an automation between Notion and my personal website where I do some writing to basically lower the barrier to me posting stuff on my site. The site doesn't have a lot of traffic. It's not really something that I've pumped a whole lot of effort or time into. It's kind of really just an outlet for me to do some writing and some thinking through what I write. And I haven't been doing a lot of that recently, so I kind of wanted to build something that was going to lower that barrier and let me write in Notion, which is what I use as a writing app. And I have a very low barrier to getting into Notion on my phone, on my iPad, my laptop, and just writing away. And if I can have stuff just automatically publish from there with the click of a button inside of Notion, then that would be pretty cool. And yeah, I'm in my pajamas. It's first thing in the morning. Wanted to try this out and record it, share it if it's helpful for anybody else, and also just to kind of show, I suppose, how easy some of this stuff is to build. I think I thought when I started into building websites and stuff like that, a lot of this stuff was pretty difficult. But actually, with a lot of tools that are around nowadays, a lot of the stuff's really, really easy, and anybody can do it. So there's no structure to this or anything. I'm going to literally look at this all from scratch. Never done any of this before. So the length of this video is the exact duration that it took me to figure out how to do this and do it, which I think is kind of cool too. Hopefully, if it works. So yeah, let's have a go. I'm going to record my screen and throw it up here, and just talk through as best I can what I am doing and kind of what's going through my head as I do it. So what I'm going to be doing is using this tool called Integromat. You might have heard of Zapier before, which is an integration tool very similar to this. Integromat's a little bit less known, but I really like it because one, it has like a really super visual flow. So you can build out things from like a more of a drag and drop canvas style thing as opposed to Zapier, which is very step by step. So I like it a lot more for that, but then also you can run like more complicated scenarios as well too. You have like diversion paths that split into, okay, if this happens, if that happens, stuff like that. I just prefer it. You can use whatever. I'm pretty sure that the Notion API is available on both. But yeah, the Notion API is pretty new as well too. It wasn't beta a few months ago. I don't actually know if it's out. I remember taking a look at it a few months ago, but haven't looked at it since then. So excited to see what's in here and how this is going to work. My personal site is built on Webflow. You can see it here. It's very basic. There's nothing crazy going on. It's also probably a bit of a UI disaster, but I don't really care. It's kind of a bit of me. The only, I suppose, fun thing it has going on is this little light dark feature. And really what we're interested in more than anything is the CMS that runs these posts. There's not a great deal of information in here. There's no images or anything like that. All that's really selected is the date. You've got a title input, the rich body input, and then there is something as well too that selects basically what this last line says about, you know, a different post that you may be interested in or you may like, which haven't really thought about how we're going to do that. Maybe we'll just set it to a default. I know there is an option just for picking the last post that was posted, so maybe we'll do that and just have it loop, and then I can go in and mess around with it whenever I want. So yeah, nice thing about building on Webflow, for one, it's no code. I love it. I have a lot of projects you can see in here, most of them unfinished things that I've started, but it's super visual, but also then it has a very good working API that has a lot of access and is well documented and is open to use on things like Integromat and stuff like that. So yeah, here's the builder and the CMS in here, and these blog posts are really what we're interested in. I think you can kind of see as well to some of the data structure of how this works in here. So yeah, there's not a lot going on. There's some leftover stuff in here too. So originally this site was supposed to be something I was going to mess around with, building as like a swipeable interaction blog and potentially have it as like something to wrap a membership around. That never happened, obviously. Yeah, I think I have a lot of stuff like that where I start and don't ever finish. But yeah, It's good in a way and bad in some ways too. I have a lot of unfinished stuff, but then also, I don't know, there's no point in carrying something on if you haven't got a real urge to go and build it and stuff like that. But yeah, anyway, kind of half the reason for this as well too, to get me into the process of building stuff and sharing what I'm building, so that those things are the total waste, and that there's a bit of accountability there too. So let's hop into Integromat and take a look here. You can see I was checking out the Notion integration on this personal profile I have a while ago, and there's this option to watch database items. So let me show you Notion actually as well. So this is kind of my personal Notion base, and this is where I keep all of my writing. Not all of this is published. This is actually available on the site as like if anybody is actually that interested in what I write, they can go and take a look directly on the public Notion page. They have to log into Notion, it seems. Maybe I need to change something there. Yeah, not exactly sure why that is. Anyway, yeah, all the stuff is in here. This is directly where I write. This is where I do all of the drafts, everything in the one spot. There actually are some drafts in here, like this reset your defaults one where I've just jotted down some notes and plan to expand on it at some point. And then when this idea popped into my head, I also added this check mark to basically say, okay, is this thing ready for publish? And I can just like check this, and then in an ideal world, it'll just float onto my website. So that's kind of what we're going for here, is that level of automation. So there's a couple of steps to this that I know I'm going to need to do already. One is this first step, which is to watch the database items and to look and see when new things are updated as opposed to added in this case, because whenever we add something, that could just be a draft. We really want to look for that publish button. Then probably what we're going to need to do is, if I type in here, oh, and by the way, it really isn't a tutorial. So if that's what you're looking for, I'm afraid it's probably not the best place to come to, but I'm just kind of going to talk through my thoughts as I do this stuff and troubleshoot it. It's more around that. So really what we're looking to do is add a new post. And I believe they are done as items here in Webflow. So what we're going to do is then add the create an item tab after that. And then I know as well that none of these changes will go to Webflow, because I've done stuff like this before as well too, until the site is republished. So with the collection items in Webflow, you can actually go on and if I start a new one, I can basically publish changes from here on that singular post. That will get the post up, but it also doesn't add it to things like the homepage and stuff like that. So doing a full site rebuild essentially and republishing the site is kind of what you need to do here. So as you can see in Integromat, this is really nice. This is like, nice little visual flow here, and you can have steps to this stuff and bits and pieces like that. So I think that's the basic structure of where we're going to go. That's where we're going to start. Let's name this auto blog poster. Webflow X Notion. Cool. Oh, by the way, that little thing was called Rocket. It lets you do semicolon anywhere, like in Slack, and find emojis and stuff like that, which is good fun. But yeah, okay. So now that I think I have this kind of basic structure it's going, I want to take another look at the structure of data that we actually need for Webflow, so that we can make sure we have the same thing, or roughly the same thing of what we need in Notion. So let's see. The name of the post should be fine. We should have that from the name of the post in Notion. The slug is usually generated from the name, so we can figure that out. The post body is a rich text field. I think we should be able to drag that over from the body of Notion here, but maybe not. So we have to take a look at that. Post summary. Okay, that's something we're going to need to add. So you just add a text field here in Notion. And being able to spell it correctly would be nice. What else have we got? Main image, not too worried about. Thumbnail image, not too worried about. Is it featured? Yeah, let's do that. That's actually brings up a good point as well too. We have to have some structure in this, that if we want to make changes from Notion, we can do that too. So let's think about that. So we can make this checkbox because it's binary, on off. What did I call that in here again? Featured. Yeah, so I'm gonna hop around here a bit, but essentially then what we have to have is some form of logic that checks to see if this item is published or not. And because of that, then we're probably also going to need an item ID in here. So whenever something is created, that gets populated. Cool. So yeah, watch the database items. There's going to be a router, and then whether we say create an item or update an item, essentially, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so update item and publish site. And then you can see really nicely in here in Integromat, whenever I drag this back essentially to be connected to there, we have this automatic little router that comes in, which is super nice. And all a router is literally 2 different routes, and then on these different routes, I can set up a filter. So in here, we'll probably set up a filter that says, okay, check and see if it has an item ID. And if it does, then it's an updated item, and if it doesn't, then it's let's create this. Cool. So yeah, this is why I really like Integromat, being able to do stuff like that, and also the super visual and drag and drop flow. I think it's pretty cool. So back to data. Color is actually important. That one's interesting. So I kind of have this little weird OCD thing where I try to get all the blog posts to have the correct color based off the last one. We could automate that, but let's see if we want to do that or not, or if we want to just figure out what the next color should be. I don't know. Okay. User should be fine. It's going to be the same, the exact same time. Again, these are like leftover fields. Blog or fun is one that we do need to have. So on the site, there's like kind of a weird little sorting. This is probably going to go away at some point because I haven't actually ended up using the fun section so much. I have this one video that we shot with a friend of mine who's a tattoo artist, or he was an apprentice at the time. But I haven't really used it as much. Maybe I will use it for more stuff like this. But anyway, right now, most of the stuff goes into blog. But let's build that in anyway, and we can figure out whether we want it or not down the line. So make that a select, and put it above that. Also publish probably needs to go down at the bottom here, just for having a logical order to things. Okay, next post in series. These are the bits of logic here that control what that bottom piece of text says. So I think what we're going to do here for this is keep it so that it's random the whole time. I need to understand how that works. The head code we can leave blank. We don't need anything else here, I don't think. So let's have a look and see how that works again in here. So if this one here is probably a better example. Yes, so next random post. Okay. This is going to be interesting. So basically there is no like random sort or order. Can I though, I wonder, set that to be like the last post or something? Okay, maybe what we're going to do with that is just pick a random post that we have and set it so that it always sets it to that first, and if I feel bothered enough, I'll go into the site and change that around, or we'll see if there's like a cool way we can play around with that. Okay, cool. So I think we have like the basics of the data structure here now. So what I'm going to do then is basically run a test in Integromat, and you can just run this scenario as is. What we'll do is we'll set it up for this Notion base. From the last time I was playing here, it looks like I've already connected up my Notion connection. So let's see, updated time, database ID. I wonder, is that the right database ID? Can I search? Yes, I can. I don't actually know what that did. Let's just see what happens. Maybe I've got this preset from the last time I was using it that this is the writing one. What we can do is let's just run this module by itself, and we will. Oh, watch the items. False passions. That does look like it's post from here. When was that update time from? Last edit time was the 30th of September. So obviously what's happened here is I've created this module months back, obviously before September, and something has changed in there and it's just seeing the updates from then. So what we might get is we'll run this a few times and it's just going to show up a load of updates that have happened since then. So actually what we can do here is set, I right click here and say choose where to start from. I can choose it from now, so it kind of resets it to right now. Okay, let's see what happens then if I go run this module only. Nothing. No, something's happened. Okay, cool. It's not seen any updates, which is good. So what I can do then is say false passions. Let's say we want to publish this, and let me take a look and say, run this module only, and then we should get an update from false passions. Yep, and in the properties, that's the name. We should have something. Time created. Blogger funds there. Published equals true. Okay, cool. So we're starting to get somewhere. So now let's go to the next step, which is this router. And this logic is going to be built around whether or not the property that is Webflow item ID is empty or not. So let's say if it is empty, we want to create a new one. So what I'm going to do here is have a look and say database item, Webflow item ID. So I believe it's the text. Let's look at one that is a text field, see if it's filled. Name. See, why is it not letting me? There we go. So in text, we can see content says here, and content here is empty. So we're going to say the condition to this one is that content. I believe it's going to be does not exist. Let's run it and see what happens. So Webflow item ID does not exist. And what we can do then is run a test for this. What I'll do is I'll uncheck this as published. We're actually going to have to set up another filter actually as well too that says is this published or is this not published as an update, so that we can then be able to say, okay, if this doesn't exist on Webflow, create it and make it, or if it does, then you need to take it down or set it to draft. Although I'm sure we can probably do that in the update item. So let's figure that out. Anyway, for now, let's what we're going to do is run this from here instead. And what that's going to do is instead of running just the module, it's going to do the whole flow. So what we're going to do, actually, I will set up a filter on this one as well too, so that hopefully it doesn't carry through. Basically, if it met both the conditions of the router path, it will go through both of them. So what we need here actually is another filter that says it does exist, and that's the condition for it going through. It does exist. Okay, cool. Item ID, the content exists. Okay, so let's run this and see what happens. Yeah, there's a load of error messages here. I'm just going to ignore all of them. That's just because all the modules haven't been set up. It's totally fine. Oh, it's maybe going to be a little bit annoying, is it? Usually it will let you run, even though there are warnings there, but maybe what we'll do is delete these publish site things. See what happens. No, apparently not. What's the basics of what we need here? We have this site set up. We have blog posts as a collection. Let's just hit OK and see what happens. We need to have a name. We can get the name from here, so let's just do that. Hit OK. And let's just do the same for this, because why not? Map the item ID as the Webflow item ID, text, and content. Cool. And then name as well needs to be filled, although the name should persist from the last time, but in case we update it, let's just throw it in. We'll worry about all the rest of the stuff later. Okay, let's save real quick. Run and see what happens. So this should go down the route of Webflow item ID does not exist. Cool. Perfect. So there, easy peasy. That logic seems to be working. We'll only know, I suppose, whenever we put in an item ID. But let's see what's happened. So now it's saying we have created an item called false passions. If I go into Webflow and refresh here, hopefully we should have a new CMS item that's called false passions, which is the gist of this whole setup. Look at that, stage for publish, and as you can see, we haven't got that publish module in there, so it's not gone up. Now, only thing is, this has absolutely nothing in it, so now we've got to do some next steps to figure out how to input all the data from Notion here, whatever we write. This is some test text, and I want to actually have that twice because I want to see what happens with like paragraph spacing and stuff like that, whether that actually gets carried over or not. So yeah, let's have a look and see. Webflow item ID. Okay, so that's another thing we need to do as well. Actually, we need to add a step to backfill the item ID and make sure that it actually lives in Notion too. Okay, let's have a look at that now. This does have some problems in it, like the fact that if I go to Webflow and start fiddling and updating with settings, then it's not going to backfill to Notion, but we're not too worried about that. All it really has to do is make sure that I have a really low friction way of getting posts up, to be honest. So right now what we're going to do is let's delete this one just for now, and then what we can do is we can add some steps in here. So we want to create the item, and then we want to go into Notion, and we want to update a database item to backfill our information. So we're going to take the same database ID. Oh, this is going to be annoying. So update a database item. So we have a database ID, item ID here, which I think is probably the same as the page ID, but I'm not really sure. And then also there's the database ID. Okay, cool, let's try that. There's also a page ID down there, but it looks to be empty. Let's try this, database ID, page ID, fields. The key is going to be the Webflow item ID, value is text, and the value should be the ID that we've created here. Okay, let's see if this works. Oftentimes this is a lot of fuck around and find out and just see what happens. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, it looks like it didn't work. Let's have a look and see what the problem is. Body properties title should be defined instead of undefined. Body property rich text should be defined. What? Okay, so it looks like it's thrown up a load of errors based off key. Okay, that could also be why. The fact that it isn't defined. So we can change this around because we know that the key is always going to be the same. I'm also assuming that the key is the name, but I don't actually know that it is. Let's just type what it says there, Webflow item ID, and see what happens. This is going to create a bunch of duplicate items in Webflow at the minute until we fix this, but we're not too worried about that, so let's just keep going. Okay, looks, no. Let's come back to that one. Right now I've realized that this also needs another bit of logic. So let's fix that first. Because it also needs an and published is checked. I think there is actually like a is true Boolean thing in here. Although I don't actually think it always works for different APIs, so I'm just going to set it equal to true. Okay. And what I will do is I'll update something else, and hopefully whenever we run it should just stop at that filter and not go through, because we don't want that to carry through. Awesome, perfect. Okay, so we still need to figure out why this is not updating a database item. Let's go through and set it to published and run one more time. Bum, bum, bum. Okay. Body properties, Webflow item ID, title should be defined instead of was undefined. Okay. I kind of worry that it wants me to update everything. This is kind of interesting too. So this seems to be showing that database items and database pages are different things. Oh, and watch page contents as well too, which is kind of interesting. I kind of worry that this stuff and this stuff might be treated as different data, which actually looking at this as well too, from the output, doesn't actually look like there is like a post body here, which is interesting. So we might actually have to go and do 2 steps here and get all of the page info before we jump to Webflow. Is that an option actually as well too to get? Yeah, so get a page. Yeah, this is going to be interesting. List page contents. Okay. Key, the name of the field. I should have read this. Value type. Each fields have their own value type, i.e. text number. That one is text, I believe. The input value of the field. That's kind of interesting because Yeah. Actually, a good point because there's no need for us to go and do that. This is called writing, I think. Okay, cool. So let's input the database ID for us. Oh, this should be much easier now. Cool. Webflow item ID. How does it know which post to go and pre-fill? Oh, that doesn't make sense. Update a database item. There's the database ID. Oh, the item. Okay, cool. Oh, perfect. Right, okay. So now we can go Webflow item ID and say item ID. Okay, this should work now in an ideal world. So let's update something on here. Leave published on. Run once. Taking its time. Boop, boop, boop. Boop. Perfect. Okay, so this is run. We have an item ID in here, and we also have in Webflow, hopefully, an updated post that has the same item ID. There's probably going to be a few here because we've ran this a few times and created a few different posts, but that's okay. So yeah, we'll just take the most recent one. And you can see down the bottom here the item ID. So ends in 02E92, ends in 02E92. Perfect. This is also a good opportunity actually as well for us to test and see if our logic works on whether it will update an item based off the fact that it has the item ID. It goes down the right path. Webflow item ID does exist. It looks like it's been able to find the item ID from the input as well too, which is great. Cool. So now we have this problem of actually finding the post body information. So let's see if there's like information in here on what these specifics do. Retrieves a list of page contents. Let's just dump this in here and see what it does. So we're not showing a page ID, we're showing a database ID. When we ran this the last time, object is called a page. It has a database item ID. Parent is the database ID. Properties, created time, logger font, checkbox, rich text. It's kind of interesting. Rich text with post summary, featured, and the name. Properties value. It's just like a high level. Okay. So we definitely don't seem to have that in here. We do have a URL. I wonder, is there a way for us to search objects? So sometimes with different APIs, what I find is you will get certain information from the watch the updates call, and then when you actually get the item, it gives you more context. So let's try that. Database item ID we have from here, and let's just update something and then run this and see what happens. Okay, we spat out some information that looks like it's the exact same as before. Yeah, okay, cool. So that's kind of useless to us. Worth a shot though. Just going to dump in some modules here and see what they do. Bear with me while I play around with these. Okay, so looking at other stuff, it looks like list page contents is the thing to do. Actually, you can just plug in the database ID. So let's try that, see what happens. Page ID, database, item ID, limit it to 1, because we only want one page to come through at a time. Let's save it, make an update, let's see what happens. Okay, it looks like it ran. We do have text. We have, this is some test text. Looks like we only have it once though. As opposed to in here we have it a bunch of times. Okay, maybe it only gives me like the start and the data. I don't think so. That doesn't really make sense compared to what I've done in the past. So doesn't have any. Why do I feel like this all needs to be? If it does, it's really annoying. So because this is like different blocks. It all needs to be in the one like block item as Notion sees it, which is kind of really stupid to be honest. But let's see what happens. That's going to be something I need to remember. So it's not the end of the world, like, but just annoying. Okay, yeah. At least it comes through with spaces properly, which is good. Cool. So what we can do now then is start to pull in the data that we have in Webflow into these create item and update item things that we have in Webflow here, and then build on the publish site. I think that's all the logic that we actually need, which is good. So let's see what happens. So list page content. Oh wow, there's loads of stuff here. Why is there loads of stuff here? I think that's right. Let's see what happens. We want to make the post summary this post summary item. This is text. It's going to be content. Main image, thumbnail image, we're not worried about. Featured, let's just go as yes for all the ones that are featured. Color, we're going to leave alone right now. User ID. So the way that the CMS is set up in Webflow here is that we have these users and the associated user IDs. So we just need the item ID of this specific user, which is me in this case. So Yeah, Webflow does this really weird thing where you can't copy the IDs out for some reason, which I just don't understand at all. So yeah, let me inspect this so that I can then copy it from here, because yeah, where am I going? That doesn't work either. What? There we go. Blogger fun. You want to map this to what's in Notion. Although Notion actually does not have, we haven't created the select fields here yet, so let's do that now. It's binary, cool. Ooh. Yeah, so the thing here as well too is we're actually going to need, so these are valid values for what is blog and what is fun. I'm assuming they're in order here. But we're going to need basically a switch to take the information inputted from Notion here, and whether it's blog or fun or whatever IDs it associates with these, and then switch it to either one of those IDs. So what I'm going to do right now is copy all of that. I have a little clipboard that will remember that for me. Right now we'll leave it as null. We need an item ID for the next post in the series. I'm just going to leave this as a random one for now. So let's go with grants bad revenue goods, good one. It's a rant. Actually don't have the post summary filled here as well for most of these, so we don't really need to worry about that too much right now apparently, because it's not something I use too much. Let's copy the text. Put that as the item ID in here. Next random post. Oh, okay, yes, this actually needs to be in here because we're more worried about random posts. The only difference there is that whenever this one goes in, it gives a piece of text that the next post in this series is that one. Whereas if I was following on from the last time, whereas we just want a random one. Slug will be auto-generated. We're not too worried about that. We don't want it archived. We don't want it draft live. Yes, we do want it live on the site, so we're publishing it. Okay, cool. Looks like the only things that are missing here then are the color and blogger fun. So let's go OK for now. I want to add the Webflow publish site to the end of this, just to make sure we have that captured. On those domains. We also want that here while we're at it. Boom, boom, boom. Cool. Okay, so now we want to make this carryover updates. So what I'm realizing as well is what I'm going to have to do is backfill the current item IDs and also probably change the content in Notion so that it's all one block as a paragraph, which is annoying, but it is what it is. I think in the long term this is going to hopefully make me write more, so should in theory be worth it. Let's see. Post summary. Content, not too worried about those. We're not going to change what is featured because we're going to let that do what it is. We're not going to change the color. We're not going to change the user. We're not going to change whether it's blog or fun. We're not going to change posts or anything like that, or slugs. And we want to map whether it's draft or not, and whether or not it is live or not. So that's another switch that we're going to, well, it's the same switch, but we're going to have to make sure that we're swapping that data as well, because what's going to happen is we have this blogger fun that is going to have a name that gets pulled through, and we're going to have, where is it? Published. which is going to be true or false. So actually true, we can just map this one straight to publish being true or false, because and this one as well too. That's cool. And it should keep that updated. So really the only thing that we need to map through then is blogger fun. So let's do that now. There's these tools then that let you do stuff like that within Webflow. I can't remember which ones they are actually. Switch, here we are. So the switch needs to come before we go to router so that it carries through to both scenarios. The input is going to be blogger fun. That's going to be the name. Well, let's go with that. So basically all we want to do here is add a pattern. So what's going in and what we want to come out based off that. These are literally called blog and fun. So let's just create one called blog. I'm going to guess and say that the IDs in Webflow for these are based off of which one comes first. So it looks like blog is first, which is good. And we have blog here. So let me use my little handy clipboard tool, copy both of these IDs. I'll get rid of the second one and then add fun as well. There's that option at the bottom as well too, to add like if it doesn't do either of those things that you said it's going to do, so either of these inputs do this, but we're not too worried about that. Cool. So what we want to do now then is in Webflow, whenever we create an item, we want to map the output of this switch to blogger fun. And that should hopefully set all of that for us. So this will be interesting now to see what actually happens here and what actually carries over to Webflow. We shouldn't have any more duplicate items being made because we have the logic that is looking for the item ID now. So let's see what happens. This should also publish the site as well too. So what we want to do is make an update here. We already have made an update. We've tagged that as fun. Let's tag it as blog just because this is more the blog format. Although it might take the last update as well. So let's see. Okay, the update item did not work. Why not? Live patch updates can't be applied to items that have never been published. Okay, that's kind of interesting. Okay, yeah, so everything we should create from this in the future will be published, but for now let's just go and publish this most recent one so that we can work this out. I'm also going to just quickly delete these while I'm in here. Cool. Getting close to the end now. Hopefully this should run. Although, yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, that's taking its time. I really should have had a clap to sync these. Oh no, I don't have microphone output for my screen record anyway. I'm just gonna have to guess where I'm at based off what I'm talking about. That's gonna be fun to edit. Yeah, looks like everything came through there, and then it published the site. Let's actually go to the live site and see what happened. Look at that, false passions is here, and it has pulled in all of this information. Now, we didn't update the date, and also we don't have any formatting to our text, which isn't great. But we're getting there. Okay. This is weird. I wonder. This is like that crazy thing of doing the same thing twice and hoping for a different result, but knowing me, that happens a lot. So it's worth a shot. No, okay. That's not ideal. It's not something to figure out today, though. I think let's just get the basics of this yoke actually up and running. I want to add a create. Create date actually pulls from the create date, doesn't it? Yeah, so 1st of January is fine. What's supposed to, there's supposed to be something before that. What is it? Author name. Okay, so it doesn't look like we've set the... That's because the author wasn't set in the first place from the automation. That's totally fine. Okay, cool. So I think what we need to do is let's take on this one and let's publish it and see if this other side works. Okay, and then crucially as well too, if I unpublish these, are they going to go away? Oh, it doesn't look like it published that one. Do you know why? Is it because we haven't set the item to live or published in here? Maybe. Yes. Oh. Also, I just realized that by me putting published as true on draft, that actually contradicts itself, doesn't it? I don't know why that actually even was able to publish in the first place then. But that does need to be something. I think we do need a switch for that one. Let's go ahead and make some room in here and add that in. It's funny because I always have these things in my head as being way easier than they always turn out to be, which I think is good because I probably wouldn't do them otherwise. So, and let's just make this true equals false, and false equals true. I realize it may not make a lot of sense that I'm doing that, but basically I just want it to be the opposite, that if it's not published, then it should be draft. So I needed to take a note of the number of that. That's number 15 for the output, just so I can match up because these have the same name and stuff. I can say draft. I want to map this to switch 15. Okay, cool. I don't understand why it hasn't published that other post that we just played with, which I think was called Work Hard, Play Hard or something dumb like that. It is in here, showing is published. Maybe we just haven't. Is it under fun? Is it under nothing? Yes, that's what's wrong. So what did we carry through? We have the user. We have not carried through Blogger Fun for some reason. Did this one carry through Blogger Fun? It did. Maybe we just didn't set that up properly. Oh, it's not set in Notion, is it? That's why. Okay. Something else for me to remember. Make sure I actually tick all those boxes, otherwise things are not going to work. Okay, we need a new one to test. Actually, let's turn off published and see if it drafts the post again. Apparently not. What? Does unticking those not count as an update? It should. Seems to be not. Okay, it's in Webflow. Let's see what's draft and what's not. Okay, that doesn't work. Draft is showing as false. Wait, this needs to run again. What one actually came through the last time? Why would draft be shown as false? Switch says for published, true is equal to false. Let's see. Go back to Notion, take this as featured, and run this again. Draft is false and featured is true. Where's published? It was live actually, wasn't it? Live is false. Draft is true. It's because, okay, so should live just always be set to yes? Let's find out. The joys. My back's getting really sore sitting in this position. Draft is false. Okay, you know what? It's getting to around work time, so I'm going to leave this right now. What we have right now, though, I think is pretty good. Like we have something that I can go and publish a post at least, or make updates to a post pretty quickly from Notion, which is really cool. The nice thing about Integromat as well too is that I think you get like 1,000 free operations a month. Like it's way more than I'm ever going to write or use. Even if I don't even know what way it's counted, but even if it's like one of these flows is counted as one operation each, or whether each module is one operation, there's no way I'm going to use that 1,000 per month. I think it's a lot more than Zapier too, so it's kind of interesting. Although here it's shown from all of our testing, we've done 78 operations, so I've used in all of the testing this morning 8% of my monthly allowance. There's no way I'm going to touch that, like, so it's pretty good. So yeah, how long did that take us? Like an hour or something? Probably longer than I wanted it to be, but yeah, that was it from start to finish. So yeah, kind of interesting. I think it's cool to know that you can do a lot of these things with very simple tools like Notion. I think anybody can use. It's literally drag and drop and click buttons and have fun. And Webflow is more complicated, but once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy. It's all drag and drop as well too, and input numbers. And then Integromat, as you've seen as well too, is to me super intuitive for an automation tool. Let you do super powerful stuff. Like there, we've linked in, you know, 2 different tools together, plus a whole lot of logic that I have no idea how to do otherwise, with APIs and code and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, it's just really cool. So yeah, hope you enjoyed. Yeah, maybe I'll do some more of these, maybe I won't, but just wanted to give it a go, try it out. So there we go. Cool.